Welcome to Thursday Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name is Jesse Ott, the host of this podcast, which is all about beverage innovation. I talk with innovation pioneers from agriculture to glass. This week, I'm speaking with Josh Sapienza, my first food and beverage tech company. Woohoo! I'm so excited. Look out, everybody. Thursday Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is branching out. The segment is called Tech Bites. Haha. Josh has a varied and vast experience of 30 plus years in the restaurant industry. From managing restaurants to finding them a home via real estate to all types of consulting from conception to expansion. Josh jumped feet first into the tech world a few years ago and is leveraging AI to revolutionize restaurant ratings and reviews. His app uses AI to match people with restaurants based on their personal taste profile. Your restaurant list and ratings are private on the platform, but you can share lists of restaurants you make with the Spotify like Listmaker. You can also share lists others have created. For example, if you are planning a trip to another city, you can download or follow someone else's list of favorite restaurants in that city with similar taste preferences and find restaurants perfect for you. It has been described as the dating app for your mouth. Josh's team has revolutionized a new private way to rate your favorite restaurants in cities all around the world. It is designed to support independent restaurants and the diverse communities they serve by democratizing great restaurant recommendations. You are going to love this app, and I encourage you to try it right now. Head to www.trycourseapp.com, trycourseapp.com, and start making your own AI restaurant generated list. It's really, really fun. Thank you for listening, and be sure to subscribe to be notified of all new episodes. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I have guest Josh Sapienza here today. I'm super, super excited because Josh is going to literally kick off the food and beverage tech portion of Thursday Thursdays. This is so exciting.
It's an honor.
I'm pivoting, you gotta go with the flow. You gotta, engage as many people as you want so they can learn all the things that are happening out there.
As long as I'm not the one who's supposed to be educating, I'm still learning a lot about the technology and myself.
Well, you've got a great product and I can't wait to talk about it. So where are you calling from today?
Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Allentown, Pennsylvania. All right. We used to have a factory in my hometown. There was a branch there. So I'm slightly familiar with it. Never been, of course, but
it's pretty much smack dab in the middle of Manhattan and Philadelphia, about an hour in between each.
Oh, that's a great location.
Not far from the Pocono Mountains.
Wow, that's awesome. So that's really nice. I mean, it would be cool to be that close to the city. I haven't really been back since I lived there, and I haven't been to Philly. It's a must.
It is, and a lot of people are surprised to hear that I go to Philly and into the city so frequently, and yet we'll have phone calls that I have to cut short because I'm there. I talk to them on my way in. You don't realize how an hour goes.
Yeah, the trains on the East Coast are amazing. I've nothing but great experiences. They're smooth, they're on time, they're, at least my experience is that they are, and clean, and, it's just a nice ride you're not driving, so you can work or, like you say, take a call. It's nice.
Absolutely.
And, the sound of the train just moving is just such a zen kind of feeling, it just makes you happy.
I gotta be honest with you, I'm not a train guy.
You're not a train guy, okay.
No, I don't like relying on other people. I'm a big fan of the Irish goodbye. I like to leave when I want to leave. I don't want to rely on somebody else to pick me up. I want to get there when I get there. I want to leave when it's time to leave. And I don't like traveling on someone else's schedule at all.
So planes, same thing?
No, planes are a necessity, unfortunately.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Used to love to fly. I don't love to fly anymore, but I do it enough to where I feel like I've taken all the unnecessary pain out of the experience. But it's about convenience, right?
It is, yeah.
A plane offers convenience that you can't get in a lot of places. And interestingly enough, I feel like that's why we're talking today, because the future of hospitality is 1000% about convenience, and obviously not about math, because 1000% isn't really a thing, I don't think. But no, the future and the present, people who think that the future is about convenience, somebody else is eating their brunch right now as we speak.
Because it's now.
Oh, it's totally right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I interviewed Claire Warner earlier, and she really has studied these next two generations and really has thought about what is the future look like? Like, are we gonna have to have like, computer screens at every seat because these kids are so used to being stimulated on a constant basis? Like, what will that restaurant world look like? Because ultimately it's the experience, number one, but two, it's also people, right? You're talking. You want
Well,
to enjoy the environment and the company.
yeah. Well, so it's interesting that you say that, because there's a new founder, or I should say CEO or president of Ghost Kitchens, or Kitchens United. And he and a couple of other players, Atul Sood, I believe is his name, he and a few other folks are working on trying to redefine the name Ghost Kitchen. And they're talking about, it's already sort of archaic. It doesn't quite accurately describe what they're doing. And when we talk about convenience and we talk about putting labels on what type of outlets and services, and really identifying what it is that you do as an owner operator, um, there's dining out and eating or buying or being a customer, they're not all the same thing. There are multiple verticals in the industry, and there have been. And if you're in the vertical of selling a product, independent operator, it's a scary place to be right now, because you're getting undercut. It's no surprise to anyone not in the industry that um, product, distribution, labor, rent, all of these things are going up, and you can't.
Mhm.
Anybody who understands, cost of goods sold, knows it's a pretty simple formula, and the cost of the product has to cover your prime costs. And if your prime costs are going up, then you have to increase the cost of the product. But there are so many corporate and chain players in the space also selling product, that they can afford to lose money until the independent operator bleeds out. And so what you're left with is those folks who are just selling product that can't charge $23 for a cheeseburger because the competition is selling that product a lot easier, having to pivot and sell more than product. And like you said, you have to sell an experience, or you need to get into selling convenience and pivoting. And a lot of folks don't want to do that. But like I say to a lot of my clients is, if you're not willing to ask yourself why you're doing it, if you can ask yourself why you're doing it, the how isn't as important, and you can pivot a lot easier. But for those that can't or don't want to, you have to be selling more than product today.
Yeah, you're right. I've heard another podcast, Restaurant Rock Stars, and he said it's not just selling butts and seats anymore. You have to look to the next two or three levels of what that looks like. Maybe catering, or you sell your pizza sauce, or whatever it is that you can help to kind of support that if needed or necessary, or to help grow.
No, absolutely. It's all about diversification. If you are relying strictly on asses and seats, then it's kind of like the movie Ronin. It's, you don't want to go into a place not knowing how you're getting out of it if things go sideways. And
I love that movie.
it's a great one. And so, you're not hiding a gun in a milk crate outside the back door. But what you have to do is figure out, like, how can we hit our costs without a single ass in a single seat? And if it's delivery, if it's catering, if it's box lunches, whatever you're doing, you've got to have ancillary revenue centers that can, at some points, be your primary revenue centers. And we learned that the hard way way back in the day at Chipotle. When we were taking fax orders for the quick pickup line.
Oh wow, fax orders.
And then, yeah, I mean, But when we realized how fragile the walking traffic could be in major cities, no matter how flush they were with meds and eds and residents, um, we realized, like, putting a separate production line on that and kind of making two entities, two businesses, two verticals under one roof makes a hell of a lot of sense. And, it comes back to the convenience. It's not just convenient to walk in, it's not just convenient to pay, but everything you can do to increase the convenience factor. And, people want to know where it's going. Nobody knows. And hindsight's 2020, but not to be an armchair quarterback who is, part-time consulting to fund my tech startup. But really, I think it's going to return to where it used to be, which when I was young and in university, it was you fly, I buy, or vice versa. But like everybody's bucking up except the person who's going to get it, which ultimately meant we were paying, everybody pays for that convenience. And right now, that technology isn't integrated properly in a lot of places,
Yeah.
um, because there's such a wide delta between hospitalitarians and technologists. And if you do it wrong, it stings and you talk about it and you kind of fester this.
Costly.
Yeah, like, oh my God, I got burned, I got raped, it's terrible. And then that becomes the story that people hear and want to stay away from it. But at the end of the day, it's inevitable. And it can be done in an intelligent, cost effective, thoughtful way. It's just very difficult. I think we were talking about this before when you have someone who's trying to maximize every square inch and every minute and every human piece of collateral and every machine they have and every scrap of food. They don't have time for that educational piece for the technology. So when somebody walks in, I mean, there's a lot to know. It took me 8 years to learn what I know, and I'm just scratching the surface. So when you have folks that are selling hard technology that people don't really quite understand, that it's not one size fits all, um, it's easy to make a mistake, and then it's easy to propagate this myth that technology is bad and it takes away from the experience. And I'm not alone in being a hospitality guy who believes that hospitality technology should be used to enhance that human connection, not replace it. And so we see ourselves more as a hospitality company that uses technology as opposed to a technology company that's using hospitality as a new vertical.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I totally agree with the human connection. Because you think about the life of a restaurant owner, they're not hanging out on LinkedIn, they're not it's not going to be how you teach them about your product or service. I mean, I'm sure some people are, but they don't have the time to,
No,
they've got so much going on. And for me, that technology seems really overwhelming because there's so much of it now. And how do you choose? And
right.
I mean, I, I think it would be beneficial for the restaurant industry. And if there's a company out there, there may be, that is independent but can help consult on the right needs for each restaurant.
Oh, there are. And there are guys like Michael Schatzy on LinkedIn. When you talk about LinkedIn, that, they're in the business of doing just that, partnering with all these technology companies to, in a sense, be an advisor as to which of their partners are best suited for your particular needs. It's kind of like, I mean, when was the last time, when people get upset about third party delivery, for example, as a technology platform, it's like, when was the last time you went and bought your eggs from the farmer or went to the butcher shop? And now, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of folks who do that. Um, a lot of women and men will go and have their farm to table restaurant and be sustainably sourced and local, and others will just tout that they are. But really, most people are relying on Cisco and Singer and US Foods and the Clovers of the world and Shamrocks of the world. And you don't just rely on anyone to bring you your food. It takes time to build that reputation as a reliable, responsible supplier. And I think the same thing is going to happen on the third party end when it goes from the producer or the restaurant to the end consumer. And I don't think they're going to just be another resource or commodity. like proteins or veg or paper, the way they're buying, but it needs to get a little bit more ubiquitous in terms of people being more familiar with the technology and more comfortable with taking the time to implement it and understand that it's not one size fits all.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So, Josh, where are you originally from?
I am originally from the western suburbs of Philadelphia, just outside of Philly.
Okay, so you're just kind of on the other side.
Yes, exactly.
And a little
Exactly.
further. You mentioned that you're smack in the middle. We were talking earlier between New York City and Philly now, which
Mhm.
that sounds really, really awesome.
It's really, really beautiful in the Lehigh Valley,
Yeah.
especially now in October. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I bet it's beautiful with the fall, the change. I don't. It's cool here. Is it
Oh
cooling
no,
off over there?
I'm working inside. I try to be outside as much as possible, but today it snapped low pretty quickly, so I'm working inside today.
Well, you have a beautiful kitchen.
I'm sorry you can see it.
No, I can't really see it. It's just really bright and pretty. It's
Oh,
got this nice glow hue.
you should. If you think this is pretty, you should see my desk. My office is. It's. This is closer to food and coffee. Uh, yeah, my desk in
Good
my office has just
strategy.
become piles and piles of folders and files and paperwork, and there's not a single clear usable surface. So I have a kitchen island that I like to spread out on, and I'm closer to
Not
everything.
be
I mean,
around the clutter.
yeah, it's more of a giant filing cabinet than an office at this point.
You need an intern.
I do. I was just saying that the other day. I
Yeah,
definitely need an intern.
scan that stuff and become paperless. That's the future. That's
Yeah,
the now.
I'm a check writer. I like
Oh, wow.
I like it the old fashioned way. I run our house with a P&L that's similar to a line item restaurant P&L. All of our
That's good,
expenses,
though.
all our receipts. I like it the old fashioned way because when you're writing a check, it's a little bit more painful, and it's like I promise, like Bart Simpson, I will not talk in class. I will stop spending money on this thing, or I'll keep. And it's like it drills in your head, like, damn, I have to stop because too much.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Credit cards are very simple, right?
Yeah, automate everything. You just don't care, and then you're like, what? So
Yeah,
I'm
you can do it on your watch now.
responsible about my irresponsibility and punishing myself. It's a very Catholic thing to do. You should check it out.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It shouldn't be that painful. It should be joyous. Yes, I earned this food
No,
that I would need to
I'm
eat today.
flogging myself on my knees.
Oh, that's funny. So, how did you get into the business?
Uh, I grew up in an emotionally codependent home that revolved around food. Like I think a lot of people say, "Oh, Italians or the Polish or the Jews." Or I think if you're first, second, or third generation American, a lot of your identity and your family life is tied around tradition, whether it's stories or misogyny or food or whatever it is. Like you bring all that stuff with the old country because that's kind of like your comfortable space around you, whatever the country was. And so a large part of there's a big serious drive to keep it alive, right?
Yeah.
And familiar. So, we dined out a lot. We cooked. My mother and my grandmothers, they shared love through food. And I always wanted to help. And I just loved it so much that I saw whether it was our house or anywhere, like how much work went in to making people happy and how the smallest twist or the small, like how you present something, whether it's in what kind of vessel it's in. You could hand somebody a cup of yogurt and a spoon and it's very thoughtful and it's kind, but to take it out and to whip it and put it in a little glass flute and give them a spoon and it's like it's special. All of a sudden it
It
becomes something
is.
special and the person receiving it feels a little bit more special. And so that sense of it's a very Maslow's hierarchy of need thing, being so emotionally tied to making people happy and whether it doesn't have to be the food, it doesn't have to be the decor, the architecture, but there's, I think, one thing that we all share in common, yourself included. You're committed and invested in just not surprising and delighting people, which is a bit of a cliche, is heard, but really you're investing in humanity, like in just saying, what do we do? Whether you're selling a burger or you're, at a 3-star Michelin restaurant, you are taking food preparation off the plate of the other person. You're taking getting silver, filling a glass of anything, whatever you're doing, you're taking the mundane, repetitive task out of the way so that the guest can focus more on their company or their family or their own inner thoughts. Or so in a way, you're trying to free people up to invest more of themselves in human connection, right? Like we keep talking about. And I think that is, not to sound like a hippie or anything, but you're really investing in humanity. You're,
Hmm.
for how many, misanthropes there are in the hospitality world that hate people deep down, like we love to hate them because we love them too. And, I always say, like, the annoying person that's very challenging is not only like a donut weight on a bat that you could use to take practice swings for the people that really you can make happy. But those people are the people that give you the funny stories. Like nobody goes home after a long night and says, wait until you hear about this really nice, polite, sweet, kind couple. They said please and they said thank you and they were so kind and they left a 40% tip. And no, that's not a fun story. The fun story is about the crazy, Looney Tunes person that said this and did this and then didn't tip. And you know,
Yep. Yeah, that's true. It does make for good stories and frustration, I'm sure.
yeah, well, it dulls you and gives you perspective. Everyone I've ever met that's been in the restaurant business for more than 5 or 6 years, starts to realize, at a certain point, you believe, I think, you believe that nobody works harder than people in the hospitality business until you meet a member of the military or a trauma surgeon or somebody else. Like there are a lot of people that give up everything and time and their heart and their sweat and their tears and being able to eat a warm meal for others. Um, and there's a lot of people in the service industry, and the service industry isn't just hospitality, but um, I think that there's a unique thread among those people. And once you start realizing that, hey, everybody's kind of got their battle, everyone's struggling, everyone's trying to be happy, everyone needs to relax and escape. And that when you're the one who, maybe you're not working harder than anybody, but if you love what you're doing and you love providing that escape and service to others, then there are few other industries that can really deliver that and give you that
100%.
accomplishment. Like how many times have you gone to bed, whether you're a beverage manager, a server, a GM, whatever, and you just leave the night and you just feel like I dealt with adversity and I kicked ass and I made people happy. And there's deep, deep fulfillment in that, especially when you could do it to a cool soundtrack with nice people and have fun.
Yeah. Good atmosphere. Good
Yeah, you
cheese.
might be able to make more money stocking shelves at Amazon, but you're not going to be happy there if you found yourself in the restaurant business because you like making people happy.
It's like being a teacher too. I mean, there's just some people that get fulfillment, from teaching kids. Thank goodness, right?
Yeah. No, we
It's
all.
not me.
No, we don't do it for the money. It's a disease.
Right. It's well, it's like you said, it's fulfillment, and you gotta you're either kind of in it or out of it. I've kind of dipped my toe in it. Obviously it's my favorite thing in the world to eat and drink, um, because that's kind of my concept. But yeah, I mean, I can't imagine how hard it is to I remember in New York City, I lived there for a few years. I worked breakfast, lunch, and dinners a few times. It sucks. It's a very long day. You're on your feet all day, but I mean, the money's can be good, so
No, it's a business that's, people all the time say, "Oh, I'm giving back to the business that's given me so much." Like
yep.
hospitality, literally given me everything. I met my wife in a restaurant. I have a beautiful daughter, healthy daughter, beautiful wife. I have a good life. And everything I learned and everything I have is because of the mentors along the way that never even had to be asked to teach me. There were a lot of guys, you just interviewed Kelly Jones. Perfect example of a guy who's just a hospitalitarian to the core, to the marrow.
Yep.
And if you're interested in something and he sees that you're interested, there is no, hey, can you teach me that? It's like, come here, let me show you this. And you get a story and you get a reason and you get an idea and an approach, and it's not confrontational and it's not challenging and it's not judgy. It's like, hey, let's do this because it's fun and it's cool and we're going to be rock stars. And, and whether it was Dan Lowe, another guy like that at Chipotle, or Steven Starr in Philly and New York, they're just people that just love creating that experience for people. And that if you're interested in doing it, they realize that it's about making everyone around you better. And any modicum of success I've ever had in my life is because I've been surrounded by really cool people who just care a lot. And never the smartest guy in the room. I've just always been very lucky to be working with people who knew more than me and were happy to share it.
I'm sure these mentors that you're speaking of, when they see somebody that has the bug or knows that they'll see the interest, right? And so when they see the interest, they'll want to, invest in you to be the best you can. So that's awesome. I'm glad that you had that experience.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. And I still have it today, in a different way. I'm working with guys from such different backgrounds, geographically, as well as socially, economically, professionally, everything. And they're investing in my success as well as their own. At the same time, they're my partners, but they are my partners because they're people that are so good at what they do. And it's not just, here, move over, let me do this. It's, let me explain, what I'm doing in another way. And it's all about communication. And it's helped me grow and appreciate what they do more, to where if I have an opportunity to pass on knowledge to somebody else that's curious, it makes you feel indebted. Like, oh my God, I have to help carry a little bit.
Yeah, or pay it forward, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So what was your first job in the industry?
My first job, my first real job, or just like my first job?
Well, I see on your LinkedIn profile. It
Because my
was
very first job was at the Springfield Mall in Delaware County, or Delco.
Is that the restaurant and the bar manager?
No, no, that wasn't until I was like 20.
Oh,
Um,
okay, so
I
you
I was
started earlier.
yeah, yeah. Well, I worked at the Orange Julius in the mall, where I helped put pizzas together and get hot dogs off the rollers, and then I was allowed to be a busboy. I was still underage, but my first job in a proper, like, fine dining restaurant, full service restaurant, I should say, was Ristorante Alberto's, and that was on City Line Avenue and Haverford Avenue, just outside of Philly, near St. Joe's campus. And my first GM job was the one in restaurant and bar in Westchester, Pennsylvania, here on Westchester University campus.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Nice. So what did you do after that?
Oh, yes, is what I usually. Yes, that's what I did after that. Everything: bottle washer, toilet plunger, expediter, manager, runner, food.
So you've literally held every job in the industry
Well,
pretty
no,
much.
I'm not a chef. I've never been trained to be a chef. I've held down some kitchens while some chefs took much needed vacations, but no, I'm the furthest thing from a chef. I could put a plate together and do a bang up job in my own kitchen when there's 6 to 12 people to feed,
Yeah.
but I can't handle skee ball coming off the expo line of tickets. Like, I
Ugh.
can't do 1,000
It stresses me out thinking about it.
not even close. I can delegate and help people keep their head up instead of putting it down, but no way. That's a skill and a craft and an art that I've never been trained. I would love to, but I've worked just about everything. I've been a garmager. I've done salad station. I've done sandwiches. I've done a little saute. And most places that are either corporate restaurants or regional chains and have any level of success realize the value and when you're bringing on a new manager to put them through the paces and have them work dish and have them work prep and so that you get not only an understanding of what your people that you're managing are doing, but so that they see that you're not asking them to do something that you wouldn't or couldn't do yourself. Um, so I've worked a lot of back of house stations, and I worked a lot of front of house, from bus
Okay.
to bev manager and banquet manager, but no, not
Any
every
favorites stand out?
all of it.
They're unique in different
Yeah,
ways.
yeah. No, there's something fun about being a machine and being like a shark, as a busser, where you have to keep moving or you'll die. Everybody, um, and there's something gratifying about upselling a table and describing the whole sensual aspect of a dish so that the last piece, like what it looks like, how it's prepared, what it sounds like, using descriptive adjectives so that the only thing left to complete that circle is them tasting it and then pairing a bottle or a drink or an app with it. And that's a lot of fun too. And so is helping with everything running smoothly and being the person that could stick and move and kind of stage manage everything and move people to their marks, and you have your aces in their places, and when you see one of the areas starting to dip, you have to go in there yourself and kind of keep it balanced. It's a challenging, fun production every night, every day, and
Hmm.
and that's kind of, I think, what we love is that high level multitasking. So it's fun to manage, but at the same time, um, being a manager requires a perspective and an involvement and a commitment that I, in my life right now, can't do. I'm a family guy. I'm a cook. I'm a driver. We've got volleyball practices and clinics, club teams, and you can't play one sport for one season anymore. It's like it's a 10-month commitment for every sport you
It
want to play.
is. My nephews are the same way. They play all year round.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
crazy, but I guess that's the fun of it. At least it's easier to focus on one thing than trying to do multi sports. I mean, back home that's all we had band and we had sports. That's that's what it was,
yeah,
for your entertainment.
right. But well, I mean, when I was a kid, we played baseball in the summer. I played football in the fall. And if we had anything more than just that, it was like we might have to go in the last week or two of the summer for football to run without pads and to hit the gym. And that was like a big deal. Now it's like you're summer training, you're indoors during the winter running drills and uh, taking clinics and traveling teams and inside. I mean, it's very aggressive
It
and
is.
very
It's
time.
intense.
And I'll miss it all in 5 years. I'll wish I had somewhere to drive my daughter to, believe me.
Yeah, no, for sure, because it's just routine now.
Yeah, exactly. With a really nice folding camp chair.
Our neighbor I mean, his kids in elementary playing football and soccer, and he got a van that you have a refrigerator and a
Oh,
bed and whatever in
that
it. So
sounds like
he
an
just
RV.
yeah, it is, but it's like the new thing, I guess. I don't know. A couple of our neighbors in Florida have him now, and he's got his little electric bike. He just throws it on there and takes his son
You're
to
on
whatever
tour.
tournament.
Oh, you
Yeah,
guys
he's on
we're going on tour.
and he's like 8.
Right.
So,
Oh, it's a bit much, and that just speaks to, it's not just your neighbors and your friends or me. It's everyone's time is getting less and less to expend on other things, and everyone's dollar, time and money are resources, and we keep talking about how that's a big driver for what we do with technology. Is that as people's time and money become more and more scarce, not to bring it too blatantly full circle, but that convenience is increasingly important not only every year, every month, every day, it gets more and more important. And one of the things that we're doing with Course Restaurant Guide is just trying to make it easier for people to find restaurants, not only in their own neighborhood, but when they're traveling, you know, locally or regionally or even internationally, on how to find something faster. And I know it's not the most popular thing, and it's not the most popular way of what we're doing. I mean, we are under no delusions. We're suffering no delusions that the most popular thing is to broadcast your opinion and to talk about, whether it's a critic's newspaper column or, which are now like online reviews and even Facebook groups or, curated lists that are definitely informative, and influencers broadcasting their opinions at the very least is entertaining. But we've gone from not having enough information, which makes making decisions hard, to like having this glut of information that makes it can be just as paralyzing as not having enough information.
Yeah, because how do you sift through it all?
Right. Exactly. Like it's just information overload. And so we made a bucket list feature that if you are into broadcasting your opinion or watching people who do, whether it's the Food Network channel or Yelp or Open Table or Infatuation or Resi, whatever you're into, to sort of organize that and have your list almost like Spotify, like your playlist. Like there's a ton of music out there too. So, but you can follow other people's lists, you can create lists, share lists. And so that's one of the things that we're really excited about with what we're doing. Um, but as far as the meat of it, if you will, the main course is really, of course, is to use people's private opinions and the answers to the quizzes. I think you said you took a few, um, to really use AI. I mean, it's 2023, and although it's not popular, um, I'm just one of those people that, we don't have to make everybody popular, make everybody a believer, and we don't have to do what's popular in order to make a difference. The same way if you're tipping, the popular thing is to not tip well. I mean, let's be honest. But if you are in industry or you're capable of tipping more, and I say that because, I tip a lot more than I can comfortably because I've been in industry for so many years and I know that one good tip can make somebody's night or their week even.
Yeah.
And we're not trying to be everything for everyone. We know that a lot of people want to broadcast their opinions and be the arbiters of good taste and say what's good and what's bad. But there is a small minority of people out there who like to tip big and who aren't just looking to have their voices heard. They're not looking for a soapbox. They're not looking for a vehicle to trash or to make a restaurant go viral. They just want to find a good restaurant. And the nice thing about what we've built is you can trash a restaurant that you hate, and it's not going to negatively impact somebody else because nobody ever sees those ratings. So you're never going to dissuade somebody who might have a different personal taste than you from trying something. And you see a lot of that. We talked earlier about how restaurant operators and owners don't have time to learn about technology. They don't have the time unless they're very successful or very big or have a lot of outlets or are a corporate restaurant. They really don't have the time and manpower to dedicate to managing their online reputation. But you have to. It's kind of a necessary evil. And um, when you realize that those hours could be spent sending someone home early or sending your chef home early and cleaning up for them, or spending time with your family or your partner or your neighbors or anything, like, the service industry robs you of there are not a lot of professions like we were talking about earlier where your RSVP is, regrettably, no, I cannot attend your birthday party and you're a good friend, or how many times you have to say, no, mom, we're open on Mother's Day again this year too. So giving somebody, taking something off their plate and giving them one, if we can make it easier for one person to find a restaurant a little bit easier and faster instead of spending hundreds of dollars and an infinite number of hours trying to find something else they love. And if we could save one restaurateur from having to manage one negative complaint online on public review, then we're moving in the right direction. And that's kind of the road we're going down. We're not doing what's popular, but we're not trying to jump in this to see how much money we can extract. We're just trying to make something that is a valuable addition and a win-win for something that's just a little more guest focused and a little less advertising focused. And that's what we really believe a lot of the curated lists and SEO, like all these other platforms that tell you what the best restaurants are. They're selling ancillary services, B2B services to the restaurants, whether it's credit card processing or reservation software or anything. It's a pay to play, and it's just the newest form of advertising. Um, there are not a lot, but there are a fair number, enough restaurants who have gone viral for that one thing they sell that some influencer shares, and they sustain that virality by being able to handle a slew of sudden like onslaught of new business, and that's great. But the average independent operator, as costs increase, as labor increases, all these things are an uphill challenge. Um, the simplest, easiest thing is just to make it up in volume. And the only way you can get more asses in seats or more business to the door is to do what we're doing, to make it easier for them to find it. Because everybody wants more asses in seats, but nobody wants the wrong ass in the seat. Nobody wants, we got 100 people tonight. They all hate what we're doing and they're going to trash us word of mouth in the morning. But no, everybody wants asses in seats, but you want someone who really likes what you're doing. And to say that this place is great and this place is terrible, I mean, if we all had the same taste, we'd all have to be after my wife, and I wouldn't win that race. So, when people find out what I do and what I've done, they think I know what's good and what's bad. And, oh, we're going to Atlanta. What restaurant should we go to? Or, New York so well, Philly so well. We're looking for like a little brasserie or a little speakeasy, like which is the best one. It's like saying, wow, you worked at Ben and Jerry's for 10 years. What flavor of ice cream should we order when we go for ice cream? I don't know. What do you like? And that whole idea of being guest focused on and understanding that the best is something different for everyone. There's no such thing as the best restaurant or the best chef or the toppest or the best of anything. And if you really are committed to being an amenity in the neighborhood and making people happy in your city or on your street, then you don't take it personally that somebody would rather have pizza if you're selling burritos. I mean, at the end of the day, you want to be something, you want to make people happy. And that's what we're trying to do.
So based on all your experience within the industry, what is your opinion when it comes to the menu and the number of items on a menu? Because to me, I think that some restaurants are trying to be everything to everybody, and that's not a user experience. And I'm thinking cost wise, manpower wise, it has to be an increase in that. And on the second part of that, why so much food? Nobody needs to eat like 2 pounds of pasta.
Well, some people let's address the first part of your question, like how big, how many menu items, how focused, right? So that's when we look at something like that, and I say we as in like me, and if I bring on any chefs to help with a consulting project, the scope of the menu is often determined by two things. Number one is your market. What does the neighborhood, what does the market, or what does the venue really want and need? Who are you serving, right? And the second thing is, how big is the facility? Are we talking about a 2,500 square foot kitchen where crossover isn't an issue, and somebody's like, you can have 80 menu items without worrying about crossover and people getting in each other's way? Or talking about a food truck, or literally a 6x6 foot space with a turbo chef? I mean, it depends on how big the facility is and who you're serving. As far as no one needing 2 pounds of pasta, like, you don't need 2 pounds of pasta, and I don't. But here we come back to, what does the guest want? I always say, like, hey, if you build a restaurant that you're going to love, if you're a chef, and that I'm going to love, I mean, that's great. It'll be you, me, a couple of our friends that are chefs, and a couple of family members. But that's what you do at home. If you're in the business, then yes, you want to do your craft and you want to tell your story, but it's got to be a fit with the community. And it's really less about what you want and more about
100%.
what the community wants.
Yeah.
Because it's a business, right? Otherwise, we're all coming to your house. Some communities and some demographics, and I won't get into which now, but want the perception of value.
Value.
They want the
Okay.
perception of knowing, yeah, it's $23, but I have lunch tomorrow, and
Mhm.
how much, and they don't mind spending it, even if a majority of it is filler, veg, and sauce to make a takeout container look even bigger, or the plate bigger, or the vessel bigger. And I'll be honest, my mother is one of those people. Like, yes, I know, but I can go there and I could order my dinner and I have lunch the next day, and we even split it. I split it with your sister or whatever. There's a market for just about everything, and if you understand the market first and look at that, and now what do we have to meet the need here, as opposed to a lot of folks go in and say, I've got this idea, I've got this concept, it's going to be great, I love it, and wherever I can get a space or wherever I could partner with somebody who's got some real estate or a developer, fine, we'll fill that space and we'll do it there. And it's like it goes the other way around. You have to look at the bricks and the street first, and then say, what can I do to fill that need? Or who do I have? What partners do I have? What chef do I have? What concept do I have in my bag of tricks that is going to work really well here?
Yeah, I go to waste. I go, oh my gosh, this is so much food. Some people will eat leftovers, some people won't. Or maybe they could do, half a plate or something. you
I think
know?
most places, if you ask, I think will accommodate and do a half portion. Of course, you don't want to ask for that half portion at 7 o'clock on a Saturday night, but
Right. No, 100%.
little, you want to eliminate as much red on the chit as possible, especially on a popular day part. But no, I hear
We're
you.
blue hair diners, so we're always
Yeah,
early. There's no one
exactly.
there.
I think there are so many places that will offer you what you want, and the ones that aren't offering what you want, usually there's somebody that's clamoring for it, and if not, then it's there's a for rent sign in the window soon.
Yep. Yeah, no, 100%. So you mentioned some mentors earlier. Do you have, I know with Kelly Jones, which of course he was on here. He's an amazing guy. Opened his 106th restaurant.
Yeah.
He's an operations genius.
Well, and
But he's got it down.
not only someone who's an operational genius, but someone who is a hospitalitarian to the marrow. Somebody who just wants to be in the service of other people. He's also done a lot of great things in the Las Vegas area with feeding folks who are, where there's serious inefficiencies, and access to healthy food there, as there is in any community.
Right.
And geez, I think he's in his like 70th week or 80th week or something like that. He's been doing it since COVID and long after.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Um, is there anybody else that had particular? Or wait, one more question with Kelly. Where did you meet him? What concept were you working at when you met him?
I don't remember. There have been a couple of openings, and there have just been so many meetings and openings with a guy like Kelly, where
Sure.
it's like watching a movie over and over, where the one-liners and the stories just are so. They're retold because they're salient. They're not retold because they're funny. But his stories and his experiences are so relatable and become so indelible. I have a cat, in case you couldn't tell.
Oh, I saw your dog earlier too.
They're so indelible, because his story about the lime that looks like a kiwi, or his story about correcting a guest. It's meritage, not meritage, and what's important. And it's about being thoughtful and saving steps and doing the right thing and not correcting the guest because that's not what they're there for, and not matching
Right.
with the guest. And there are all these little things that you say, oh my gosh, I can remember like it was yesterday. It was like 15 years ago or something like that that we worked together. And
Wow.
there are not a lot of people who can share their experiences in a way that you not only remember them next week, but you remember them for a lifetime.
For lifetime. Yeah.
And and he's just one of those guys who cares, he gets it, and he's all in. You know,
Yeah, he is all in. You can tell. I mean, he's
yeah.
really passionate.
No, he's a fun guy to talk with and to dream with and to share a floor with. Um, he's the kind of guy that when he's the captain of the ship, you just want to make him proud. You want to say, "Look, it's rubbing off. I've got it. I get it. I get it. Look, I get it." It becomes a game. You know, there's another guy I worked with, Tom Jackson, who is still at Elvez on 13th and Sansom, and he's just that kind of guy who is all in, gets it. He's about making people happy and busting balls and taking names and moving with a purpose and just having fun. And there are few people that are as invested in the people around them as the people that they're serving. And I think that's what makes it addictive. That's what makes the business addictive. That's what makes it so fulfilling when you find those other people to
Yeah, for sure.
feel like you're as important as the guest.
Where as traveled through the industry or worked through the industry rather, are there any resources or was it mainly just doing and learning from others that like Kelly? Or are there any resources or websites or guides or
No, I mean, we
anything?
had the 1 minute manager and setting the table, like, the books that everyone else has, but there weren't the communities, the online communities and the resources that there are today. We didn't have those, 100 years ago when I was coming up and cutting my chops. It was really more of a one-on-one, finding a mentor and working in a restaurant or with a group as long as you felt like you were really being mentored. And as soon as you felt like you weren't, it was time to
Yeah. Yeah,
go.
that makes sense.
You were either growing or you were dying on the vine. And I was just one of those people who believed that, you know, if I wasn't learning something every month where I was amazed at how much I was learning, then it was time to go.
That's interesting. What kind of a timeline is that? Because in the I guess corporate world, um, it used to be about every 2 years people would change, and I think it's longer now. But what's that like in the hospitality side?
I think every I think every hiring manager or every executive looks at it differently. Um, if you're somewhere for, no one wants to leave, especially in management, without at least having 2 years under the belt, right? Because they don't want to look like they're a problem or they jump from place to place, especially if you're firing people a lot, right? You don't
Yeah.
want to be like that person that keeps getting fired. Um, but if you have a good why, um, and you only worked at six places, 2 months each, some people are more open to hearing about that why, and some people will value it, and some people won't care. Um, I think you have to do what's right for you, because at the end of the day, whether it's trying to get a job, trying to find a partner, trying to find an investor, the more honest and transparent and genuinely human you are about what you're doing and why you're doing it, if it's a good story, right? It's only a good story to some people. Some people, it's a bad story. But do you want to work with the people where your truth is a bad story? Like, it's better to get turned
Yeah.
down with those people and find the people that you gravitate towards that say, I like your story. Like, I like
Right.
what you did. I like what you did, because that's more sustainable of a future where you actually are going to be happy, where you're going to be more fulfilled, where you're going to learn more, you know,
Yeah.
especially with a daughter who's going into high school. Like, we can't emphasize enough that whether it's a team that you're playing on or school that you're going to, doesn't matter how great the team is, what their record is, or if it's Princeton or Duke or Yale. If you're not happy there, you're not going to perform well. You're better off going to play at a D3 school or go to a community college that you love and you're happy, or work in a job where you love the people and you love what they do, than, you know, you have to think about how are you measuring success? Uh,
Yeah,
the,
definitely.
the stigma and what other people think about your CV or what name is on your sweatshirt or who's signing your check is not nearly as important as how happy are you at the end of the day. And that's where your success comes from.
Yeah, definitely 100%. And obviously that's different for people. And if you're not in an environment where you're learning, I think you're spot on. Don't waste your time. We have such a short time here on earth.
Right. Because
Right?
you're working for somebody or with somebody that's going to look at your decision as a bad decision. It's just, yeah, we're not here long enough for that.
Uh-uh. Yeah. And and there's so many restaurants. I feel like the barrier to get a job is not as hard as corporate world. And I don't know how it is on the restaurant management side or chef side. To me, it's probably word of mouth. People know you, that kind of thing, versus you know, on our side where you have to fill out, get your resume, do a cover letter for every job you submit, you want to, apply for. And then, 99 out of 100 or no. It's
Yeah.
brutal. And I feel like also our industry has become so fragmented into silos that it's harder and harder to get jobs. So I'll give you an example. I called in the military for 8 years. And so obviously know all the buyers and whatnot, how it works. But when you try to apply those skills outside of that buyer, they don't care about your experience because you don't have that relationship with that, you know, Total One buyer, for example, or Sam's or Walmart or whatever.
Right.
They buy you for your relationships. So I guess there's a human element to it, but it's also very short sighted in my opinion.
Sure. Well, if we all ran businesses the same, it'd be an interesting place.
We
And
all know the rules.
right, right. I mean, that's why I don't live in California because sometimes I like a rainy day, and it makes me appreciate the sunnier ones more.
Even more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there are a lot of people that run businesses the same, and they have a lot of reasons. And I think, generally speaking, when you catch yourself trying to figure out somebody's why, you'll only be able to guess. It's wasted energy, and
Yeah.
it's you know the odds, even if they're 1 in 100, um, the ratios and the math aren't as important as getting to where the right place to be is. And if you have to knock on 1,000 doors to have one answer and the right answer, then that's where your focus should be, on the one door that opens, not on the 999 that didn't. Because you'll never understand what somebody else's motivation is, or what their prejudice is, or their bias, or the pressure
Right.
that they're
I
feeling.
had a bad day.
Yeah, or had a bad day, or they have a bank breathing down their neck, or they're just seeing the world differently than you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What do you think are the main pain points in the restaurant industry this time? Like, maybe the top three.
labor,
In
uh,
what way?
labor, and labor.
Finding them or keeping them? Okay. Labor, labor, labor. Okay.
Yeah,
Finding them and
no,
keeping them.
you'd be surprised. Like, I
Paying them.
feel like I have a lot to offer folks in terms of helping with uh, operations, and from concept development to asset repositioning and systems and money saving and efficiency and culture and everything. But one of the most popular questions I get is, how do we find more people to work? And unless you're just in an area where there are no people, the hard truth is that I'm not even going to tell you what the truth is. Go to some place where you see incredible service and people making eye contact and being happy. And for me, the first place that comes to mind is a giant supermarket. Not the market I go to the most, but they sell boar's head lunch meat. I like my boar's head, so I go there. And I go to this one in particular because it is so impressive how happy everyone is. And they always have so many people working there. So I started asking. I said, how did you find out about this job? And Although there's a lot of people that say, hey, I was Googling online. I'm the guy in the checkout counter where you're behind and you're like, what is this guy talking? Like, please move on. I
Me too. I
and
can do that too.
and I try to keep it as brief as I can. But when I see that, I have to say, how'd you find this job? What did you do before? And I was looking for a job. I went online. I Googled Walmart, giant market. So I'm like, okay, SEO. There's something with that, like playing around with job listings, and that helps out with the company. But the overwhelming response after months of asking people was very like over a period of time. It was like, oh, well, my friend works here, and then oh, well, my cousin works here, or so the guy that works the delis, cousins, neighbor, and what you start, the negative space starts to fill in, and you start seeing that people are just so happy working here that they tell other people.
People, yeah.
It sounds like, a cop out, like, oh, create a great culture, have fun, make money, and then they'll bring their friends. But it's so true, whether it's a restaurant or a supermarket or a garage, auto mechanics. It's like, I know a guy who's got a couple garages. He can't find auto mechanics fast enough because there's turnover or nobody wants to go. But man, the minute they get there and they start working for this guy, they're telling a friend like, well, I'm having more fun at work than you are. And it limits turnover. And there's a couple of articles I write about this. I have a website called hospitalityhelpline.com. And it talks about, the best place to start to find new people is in the mirror. How everyone talks about family and, we have a great culture here. And then you sit there for 10 minutes and you're like, I know you think you do, but let me tell you what I see. And if it's the owner, then, you have to tell them, like, you should stay away from here or sell your business, because your GM, whether it's family member or it's a hire, like, they're not running the business you think they're running, and you're too close to see it. But
yeah,
whether it's a trust issue or a respect issue or whatever it is, and a lot of what I do for places is helping them go through new hire candidates and management candidates and vetting people and doing tastings for guys. Because it's not just about the food, and it's not just about, like you said, the CV. It's about, look, I can train anyone to do what I can do in a restaurant, but I can't train someone not to be an asshole. I can't train someone not be a douchebag, right? I won't say where, but we had a big no douchebag rule at a couple of places that I worked in, a couple of companies. And whether you're looking at Polaroids or you're sitting across from them, you have to not be looking at the CV, because, you have to be looking for the thing that you can't train. That was the parent or the guardian or the grandparent or the older siblings thing. Like, you can't do that. You can't raise somebody to be genuinely curious and respectful and thoughtful. You can't create a history of making people happy and an interest in food and wine. Like, if you're just doing it because you're a machine or you're skilled and you're trying to climb a ladder, like, there's so many people that come to me and say, I really need a GM and executive chef, but I got nothing. Like, where do you find them? I say, you have 2 line cooks that come early every day. They want to be here. They care about you. They care about this place. Train them to be a chef.
yeah.
There's no farm where chefs just grow out of the ground. Somebody needs to mentor a cook that is showing up, that has a good attitude, that wants to learn more. Have you asked them if they want to step up and learn more? Do you have a crew ladder in place? Do you have a Montessorial approach to cross-training all of your staff? Like, take a leap, trust somebody, and they'll trust you back. You want so much from people, but you're not giving them anything. And then the most common response is, well, I don't know how to train somebody to be a chef. Well, then, if you don't know enough about a restaurant to mentor people, then you either need to get out of this business or have a partner who does. Because, that's like saying, I want to own a surgery center and I don't know how to perform brain surgery, but I'm trying to find a brain surgeon. Well, how do you know they're any good? Well, look at this CV. I'm like, how many times have you walked into a restaurant and it's like a highly acclaimed chef and it's like the food is terrible? It's like, who's doing the tasting? Who hired this guy? How do you know if they're bullshitting you? How do you know they can cook? How do you know that food that other people are going to want to eat. And yes, I'm a big fan of, you need a chef, you hire a chef as a consultant, bring them on to mentor your line cooks. You need a GM, take that lead server and make them a hammer, make them a shift closer, have them start counting money, make them invested in your business. Like, I think Gary Vaynerchuk is the big guy, Gary V, who always says, like, if you're expecting your people to care as much about your business as you do, then you already lost. You don't get it. Because why would anybody care about your business as much as you? Make them a partner. And don't just put it on paper, like actually make them a partner. When you start if you want people to care as much about the business the way you do because you own it, make them an owner. Watch how much more they care.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
I love
I
that.
think so. When you invest in your people and you invest in your processes to develop your people, now a lot of times, there's no pause button in restaurants. Sometimes we've had to close restaurants down and put up a sign and like some fake ceiling tiles that have come down and say, we're under renovation. We had a bit of a problem. We're closing. We negotiate with landlords and developers and things to abate rent for a period of time. And that can get very, very tricky. But if they see what you're doing and understand why they're taking the hit now so that they can be on a better trajectory to the future, landlords are partners in the business too. And developers are your partner. And if you don't see it like that, you're missing out on something really big there as well. But they don't want turnover. They don't want to see you fail either. And if you're lucky enough to own the bricks, then you need to talk to the bank. And there are ways to navigate those conversations. But generally speaking, you don't want to wait until it's too late. And it's sad, but you get a lot of calls when you just know, like, look, the blood has already left the body. You just need to tie off that wound and stop the bleeding because you're not going to get it back. You waited too long,
Way too long.
Yeah.
So what is the outlook that you're seeing? I mean, you kind of talked a bit about AI. Is there other forces that you see happening in the restaurant business? Any trends or things?
Technology standpoint or
Anything?
No, I mean, AI and CRM is having a moment, and I think it's because people are starting to realize the inevitability of it all. And I spoke with some folks at DoorDash who, really interestingly enough, shared some data with me that during the last election was very interesting. They were actually able to track frequency of orders and guest check spends, individual spends during the election and how people voted they tied how the region voted or how, not in a gerrymandering way, but they were just looking to see if there were any corollaries. And they used AI to do this. And what they learned was that the younger, surprise, surprise, younger and more liberal demographic was more likely to order delivery and pay the extra $12 for the convenience of having somebody bring them their food. And over the last couple of years, they're seeing that it's a more centrist 25 to 45-year-old. And it's like anybody immediately below that or over that, it's like a hard pass because they don't see the value. That's ridiculous. What is this fee? What is this charge? Like,
yeah, they want to save money.
Right. Whereas you have people, people are starting to understand in general that it's not just the gamers that are like, don't want to get away from their screens. It's people that are playing sports. It's families that have young kids that or they're showing them to school and to camp and to clinic and the sports practice where it's like, you know what? It's worth to you fly.
So worth it.
Right.
So worth it.
And there are just more and more people, the old people are getting old and older and dying, and younger people are coming in to fill that middle gap where, it's a bigger piece of the pie and it's growing and growing and growing while the people who are not interested is shrinking and shrinking. It's like, I look at what we do with artificial intelligence and the marketplace a lot like, I bought a world atlas the other day in Staples. Rand McNally.
They're just fun.
They are. And I love them. I'm two things I really love are Ziploc zipper bags and road atlases. I miss those days. So, um, an interesting fact is that, I grew up where you stopped at a gas station, you got a map, and you looked at the map and you figured out where you were going. And that was kind of an adventure. It was fun. And then we had MapQuest. And MapQuest,
Yes.
wow, they figure out the directions for you and you could just print it out. How easy and convenient is that? And it was amazing. It was like, oh, let me MapQuest that. Like, I'm so cool. I'll just put the MapQuest in because I'm going somewhere. And, and now Rand McNally sold hundreds of millions of maps. You know, they were the originator. They sold railroad tickets and schedules, and then they printed books. They were a big printing press in Illinois and wrote the Mother Goose book. They printed Mother Goose. And when they started doing Rand McNally maps, the Gulf Oil Company saw it as a great opportunity to get people to explore more and spend more money on gasoline, like exploring the roadways. And they started digitizing their maps in 1982, roughly. And I don't think anyone could have foreseen, they went from ancient cartographers to master map makers to Rand McNally, who made books and globes and road maps at gas stations. That was something that was very modern. And then they went digital. But at the end of the day, it was just the same thing over and over. Nobody would have expected, oh my God, at some point you're going to use mapping software and just say, I want to go to take me home. And it plots the most efficient route and even tells you, hey, there's a back
Right.
4 minutes. And it's like, how far have we come? Well, similarly, it's like 2023. The best way to find a restaurant that you're going to like is not through, even though it's digital, it's not through scrolling through articles and writings of people that you've never met. And let's be honest, it doesn't make choosing a restaurant to go to that night any easier. In fact, I don't think I'm alone in that when I'm reading reviews, I'm thinking, how crazy is this person? Do I have anything in common with them? Or are they just complaining about everything? And you start trying to see like, hey, do I have anything in common with this person? What else have they rated? And next thing you know, it's like 547, 548. Like I'm in a hotel. I don't know where I'm going to eat tonight. And it gets to be crazy. And so that little bit about, what do I have in common with this person? Technology, like we're not making a digital map anymore. There's software to
Right.
help people. And we're bridging those gaps and we're finding commonality among people that don't know each other on the back end to just make it faster and easier on the front end for them. And I think that's where things are headed. And not just in the restaurant and hospitality verticals, whether you're
Right.
looking for hotels or looking for restaurants or bars or whatever, it's everything is getting that way because we're getting more and more productive. And technology, although it is replacing humanity in some ways, it has an unbelievable and unprecedented ability to enhance human communications and increase that by taking the monotonous, rote, mundane tasks off of the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, 100%. So, with Course Restaurant Guide, can you explain, like a person traveling to another city and how that works? How your app works? If you're like,
Sure.
let's say we go to Denver, Colorado,
Okay.
and I've done my quizzes and I've done my, preferences per se. So, what happens? Like, how does the app work if I'm in Denver?
So let's back up a little bit to when you're downloading the app, there are 100 quizzes, 100 plus quizzes. So you could take one, or we recommend you take 20 to start getting the ball and the AI, the machine learning working.
Okay.
It's technology. It's not magic. This isn't Hogwarts. So it doesn't just, people say like, how come it doesn't already know what I like? It's like, look, even the most sophisticated military GPS systems in the world, like Apple, you can't go to Apple Maps and say, take me home. Like you have to put data in. You have to tell it where you live, or use an address over and over for it to eventually learn that that's home. Like nobody opened Facebook having 1,500 friends. Like it takes some work. The thing that does work out of the box though is the list making. So if you're going to Denver and let's say you're watching Instagram or TikTok or have some friends in Denver and they make a list, They can make their favorite restaurants list or their Denver. You can make it into your Denver bucket list. Like Spotify, you can share the list. You could create a list. You could follow a list, and then you know where you want to go. So you could find it on the map. You can actually map your, say, Denver bucket list so that you can see if there's a concentration, like where you might want to stay that's in proximity to all those restaurants you want to hit.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
How do
And
you find followers? How do you find people to follow?
so we're actually working on the interface where you can search lists that people make public. But right now, you can share a list either via text message or email it to somebody or share it on social media. You could make a QR code of it and have somebody scan it. Right now, though, it's basically peer to peer, like for your inner circle.
Okay.
Like it's shared. But we're developing the interface now so that if you're looking for, like, you can search by keyword Denver or by lobster if you're looking for restaurants selling or
That's cool. That's
brunch,
really cool.
the rooftop bar. Like you could start to see which people, what lists are found. The same way you might do it on Zillow. When you're looking for homes, you could filter your searches.
So is this something where you go and you check in? What, every time you go to the restaurant, do you check in
No,
on the app? No,
no, you
it's
don't.
just a list. It's a
Well,
just
every
that.
restaurant, so every map pin, when you go to the app, and let's say you just open it for the first time, every pin will represent a restaurant. If it has a public profile, if it has a Google page, if it has a social media page, we'll find it. We pull that data. And then you could tap on the restaurant's pin and privately rate it in a number of categories, whether it's atmosphere, food, service, cleanliness, the seating, like whatever you want to rate it on by using emoji faces instead of giving it a stars system. Because,
Nice.
well, we started out with a numerical system, 1 out of 10. And when you're working with data scientists, a 7 out of 10 is very high. It's high percentage. It's high compatibility that you liked it. But for somebody like me, that's a 7 out of 10 is a 70%. That's a C, not anything to be excited about. So it becomes like your taste, it becomes very subjective. And so we decided to use a scale that sort of mirrors the pain scale in a pediatrician's office, where, because, if it's a 7, who cares if it's a 7 out of 10 or 70% means something different to everyone, but you could say how it makes you feel, the emotion it makes you feel, because that's more individualistic and that's more guest focused than creating a one size fits all grading scale. Right.
Yeah.
And that's not what we're trying to do. So, as you rate restaurants, we suggest you rate 20 restaurants, ones that you like and ones that you don't, so that you can kind of start that ball rolling. And then the pins will change color depending on your compatibility, your individual compatibility with each one.
That's cool.
So, anywhere from crying eyes, which interesting enough was first a puking face, but we thought that's not fair. So
It's funny though.
thanks. So anything from crying, to heart eyes, love. So when you love a restaurant, and if there's not enough data, or it's, or it could go either way, it's kind of like a face, and it's a yellow, and it basically goes from red to green, the pins.
Okay.
And so the more you use the app, the more you privately rate restaurants, the more you take more quizzes. You're basically creating what we call and refer to as a personal taste profile. And that is what we use. It's almost like a dating app. Like, we use your personal taste profile to calculate your compatibility with each and every restaurant everywhere, so that it just makes it a little bit easier to steer you towards the restaurants that you're most likely to enjoy and away from the ones that you're not.
So, from a restaurant standpoint, if a list is made public, can they see all the ratings that they have?
No. The
So
list,
no.
it's like, so if I share my Denver favorites restaurants with you, when I'll see, I could go in and look at the ratings, how I rate it. But if I send it to you, it's going to show you your compatibility with the restaurants on my list, not my compatibility with them. You'll know that if it's my favorite restaurants list, you'll know that I like them and I have high compatibility with them. But you're not. It's very difficult to trash a restaurant on our network. If I rate something negatively, like I did 2 nights ago, incredibly poorly, um, the only person that's going to affect is me. Like, I'm not dissuading someone with different tastes from even trying it. And really, that's what I unfortunately happens with public ratings. Like, if you slam, especially if you're seen as an authority or an experienced person or somebody who's worked in the industry or is maybe an arbiter of good taste or respected people go to, um, somebody might look at that and who might love the restaurant and say, "Oh, I don't want to roll the dice there," and it could because it's an expensive gamble. I'm very fortunate to where if I have a bad dining experience, I can say, "Oh my God," like a bad guest or a difficult guest, right? It's like, where do you hear about this? It's a story. And it's like, you kind of laugh. I can laugh it off. It's like trying a Beaujolais Nouveau to see how bad is it this year? Like, ha ha ha. But I'm trying to understand, right? So,
Yeah, I understand. I
but
remember
that's
selling
fun.
a bottle in New York, and I knew it was bad, and they're like, "Thanks."
Well, no other wines but George DeBoeuf. They give out pocket squares, ties, hats, and sweater, like for a reason, right? It's fun. It's fun.
It
But
is so fun.
not everyone is in the position to spend $8 or $12 for fun. And not everyone's in the position to spend $100 on dinner and say, "Oh, how bad was that?" Like, that might be their one time that month to go out and dine, whether it's a financial constraint or a time restraint. Like, the one date night they had, you know, up in smoke. And you do that enough and you have enough negative experiences. Now labor isn't the biggest issue for a restaurant owner. Now the biggest issue is getting people to come out and try the restaurant because they've chosen poorly and made an expensive, time wise or financially expensive mistake. And I said, that our app is kind of like a dating app for your mouth, where we're measuring where you're a good fit. Um, Similarly, when you're dating, I know you're not right now and I'm not, but it wasn't that long ago where sometimes when you're dating and you don't have good luck, you're just like, you know what, forget it. I'm hanging out with my crew. I'm doing my usual thing. I'm not going to test the waters anymore. It's not for me. I'm taking a time out for me. Right. Restaurants can't afford, especially independent restaurants, can't afford you to give up and just say, forget it. I'm not going to try new restaurants. And it was that way before COVID. It was that way, especially during, and it's still that way. Like, we need to increase people's odds of having a great time, not just because we're driven to as
Right.
parents to make sure people are having fun, but we want the downtown amenities that make up the colorful, vibrant streetscapes that are neighborhoods and make them interesting. Let's face it, like, a bunch of really fun, lively, noisy, colorful restaurants are much more attractive place to live than a bunch of boarded up windows, right? With for rent signs. And if you like those amenities and you want to see them survive, you need to support them. But that could be more difficult for some people than it sounds. And so we're trying to make it easy, not just for serious food lovers and travelers, but for people who,
Hmm.
want to try something different. When we were first doing R&D with focus groups and think tanks and just building the app, one of the things we would do is we'd pull people together and say, okay, now when you go out to dine, how do you find it? Are you a Yelp person? Do you ask people at work? Do you just go based on what you drive by or walk by on your way to and from work? Like, how do you decide? And you'd be amazed at how many people would tell us, like, look, we don't dine out. We don't really go out. It's like, all right, you know, I've
Really?
I've worked for decades in the restaurant business. You're telling me I've served thousands of people, and you're telling me you're the one family that cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner every night at home? They're like, no, no, no. We go out, but not really to restaurant. We don't dine. We'll go to like Cracker Barrel or we'll go to Red Robin. And I'm like, that's
That's
dining.
restaurant.
Those are real restaurants. But one of the things that the Food Network has done, while they've shed a lot of light and popularized the trade and the craft and the industry and the people in it, and some as being arbiters of good taste, they've really facilitated a critic culture that has literally told people what is good food and what is bad food, and what is a good chef, what is a top chef, what are the best restaurants. It's not just like Springfield Magazine's best 50 restaurants cover anymore. Now it's ubiquitous and online, on social media, on the Food Network. Now they've gotten away from that with guys like Tony Bourdain, who's no longer with us, obviously, but Guy Fieri and folks like that who really focus more on the town and the personal
Community and
people and the
yep.
community of diners. Yeah, because otherwise, you really what I've seen personally is an entire segment of the market that's been marginalized and told, oh, well, you don't know good food. Or if you don't like cerebral artisan preparation, then you don't understand it. And it's like, what if I just love a burnt hot dog in my toaster oven? Does that make me any less right that that's what I love? Like, no. Like, if you love Old Country Buffet and if you love Red Robin, there's probably an independent operator or a mom and pop restaurant or a small chef that's doing something as well that you'll like equally. And instead of this isn't for you, we're saying like, hey, there's no right or wrong. Like, everyone's a winner here. Like, you need to go out and support it because my idea of what's right, like, don't ask me where I would go. Tell me more about yourself so I could tell you where you should go.
Yeah, I mean, and that app could kind of open that up for them.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So that's really cool. Well, this is really awesome. Is there anything else about the app that is important for
Yes.
people to hear?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
It's free.
It's free, which
Free.
okay, everybody loves that.
And we've been out of beta now since February, so that's now March, April, May, June, July, August. We're coming up on our 6-month anniversary, and we need people to download it. So we're trying to make it as fun as possible. We're evolving it every 2 to 3 months. We're putting out updates to make it more sticky and fun and engaging. And pretty soon we're going to be offering rewards. Like right now, you get points for the more active you are on the app. But what we're going to be doing now is as you attain a certain level of points, you're entered into a weekly raffle to win gift cards to independent restaurants that you like, or delivery, or
That's awesome.
Yeah, swag. We have a lot of swag available. That's
everybody loves swag.
Free gear. I love free gear.
I
So
know. T-shirts, I just love them.
Absolutely. So yeah, no, it's free and it's getting better every day. And I think if you're somebody who is interested in in a platform that promotes privately rating restaurants, we're the restaurant friendly option, and we want people to recognize that and know about it. We just don't want to be another cool idea that's making a positive difference that nobody's ever heard of. So we've formalized a board of advisors now, and we're getting ready for a little fundraising to help us advertise. But in the interim, we're looking for people who can help us form some strategic alliances, whether you manage a campus or a central business district or a neighborhood, or a chamber of commerce that has food-focused events, or people that are traveling in, and you want to really reinforce the fact that here's an easy way to share restaurants that we want to highlight. We think that what we offer is a great digital companion to any kind of event or diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative that wants to include development and support for the local independent restaurant community.
Josh, do you enjoy outside of work, AI, your family? Do you have any hobbies or anything that you just love to do?
I love cooking for my family. I love driving our daughter to volleyball games, and I love going to tournaments, volleyball tournaments, basketball tournaments. And, I love traveling. I think travel, as Mark Twain said, is fatal to prejudice and bigotry, and sorely needed on those accounts. As a parent, I take a lot of pleasure and pride and showing our daughter that, there's no right or wrong, or that at least more than one person can be right at the same time. And a lot of, whether it's taste or religion or any preference in the planet, It all has to do with your perspective and how you see that where you live and how you live is not the same for everyone. And I think the more
Right.
exposure she has to that, and the more exposure my wife and I have to that, the easier it is to realize that everyone's reality is their own, and it makes it easier to serve people better, by recognizing that everyone looks at things a little bit differently. And ironically, when we set out to build this technology, um, to like get away from the biases that muddy these online ratings and recommendations, we actually ended up creating a platform that was really a celebration of bias and a celebration of individuality and diversity of taste. Um, and just
Yeah, it's
going
true.
off.
You know, without it's your opinion only, so you don't have to say something for other people. Sometimes I feel like if you go to this restaurant frequently, you have a bad experience, you give it 1 star, that's not a real accurate picture of how you really feel about that restaurant. And so if you're just doing it individually, that 1 star, it doesn't matter because you've been there 10 other times.
Right.
I think people can be harsh.
They can, but you know what? They can also be shrewd and use AI and technology, yeah, inhumanely and not fairly. There is a tremendous amount of ability today where, when all these other platforms came on the market, nobody knew how algorithms worked. Nobody knew that you could go with $1,000 on Fiverr and buy 1,000 negative reviews for your competition, or fake 4-star reviews for yourself. So, the star system it's hackable, and it's easily hacked, and it's, ratings and reviews are bought and sold and traded and bartered for every single day. And it's not just disgruntled employees or somebody with an axe to grind or somebody that's having a bad day. Sometimes it's just a giant click farm in Pakistan that's run by somebody on Facebook who's collecting money to artificially inflate reviews to help a business because they've figured out a way to game the system. And, in 20,
That's sad to me.
yeah, it is. In 2023, your parents understand that, oh, well, I can like your blog on Facebook to give it more exposure. Like, they're working the algorithm. And I'm not saying benevolence is bad, but you understand how it works now, and you understand how the system can be gamed, and it's not getting any more difficult. It's only getting easier to game the system. And so instead of working with a broken system, it's time that I hope more people kind of take the lead and follow what we're doing, which is just creating an entirely different system that's immune to that sort of stuff.
And can help you find restaurants based on your taste preferences.
Right. And has a practical application as well.
Yeah, that's cool. No, I think this is
Thank
awesome. I'm excited for you and
Thank
your success. It's going to be fun being a part of this tech, because it changes and evolves. And I'm sure if I were to interview you a year from now, the progress that you've made could be, 4 times what you're doing right now. So it's
You're
pretty
part of the
exciting.
story now. Yeah, you're part of my story, and it's a date. I will see you this time next year.
Okay, let's do it. We'll catch up.
Thank
And
you.
if you have like major rollouts or something, I'm creating a segment called Launchpad series.
Oh, thank God. I thought you
And
were going to be like, where are they now? And you're like, I'd love for you to be on that.
well, that's a good idea. I
Never
haven't
heard
thought
of
about
that
that
guy. Yeah.
one. So if you have your, whatever, if you're a winery, brewery, whatever, it doesn't matter. If you have a new product, you can come and we can just do like a 5-10 minute segment and just, you can talk about the feature, or talk about what's new, or, something like that. Where
What would be fun is for us to collaboratively make a bucket list, right? And then like let a listener or a viewer or somebody, a follower, choose which restaurant they want us to go to on the bucket list and just start knocking them off.
that'd be fun.
Yeah.
You explain to me how it works. I'll participate. It'll work. I'll do it.
You have to, I appreciate you giving me airtime, but you have to check out the website and see how it works.
No, I do. I apologize. I had a wedding this weekend and I totally got distracted. But
Wow.
But yeah, no, I'm definitely gonna dig in and get my 20 quizzes done and start rating restaurants that I already know
Right.
because we frequent a lot of the same restaurants in our neighborhood because that's just what happens. And yeah, no, I can't wait to see how this AI works. I'm excited.
Nice. Yeah, we're
And
trying to make it easier for people to understand how it works, and we realize that although our ideal customer is 23 to 43, like as you get closer to that 43, people aren't as willing to just push buttons and see what happens. And so we're trying to make, instead of the little information button at the top left side of the screen, we're trying to make short little 5-minute pop up or 5-second, 5-second pop up videos that are kind of like mini walkthroughs, explainer videos.
okay, that's awesome.
We're working on that at the end of this month.
Yeah, knowing how important those 5 seconds are, I get it. It's kind of hard because
Yeah, when
it's
you
got to be engaging
exactly. Well,
as
and
they're
you have to
scrolling.
treat every word like you're paying $1 million for it.
Yes.
You could distill. That's always been my Achilles heel. One of my partners, Nathan, is phenomenal at helping me edit myself. Like he's just that guy where you'll say, "Okay, here's my first draft. Run at this. What do you think?" And he's like, "Paragraphs 3, 7, 8, and 11 are saying the same thing." Like, get it? Like, just I think you could get all of that out, and you're like, "Oh, wait a minute." And
That's funny.
it's good to have.
Grammarly is a good tool also.
What is?
Grammarly?
I thought Grammarly was like, what's the correct use of which versus which, or
Yeah, it won't tell you that if it's a repeat, but it'll help you structure your sentences and, either come up with different words or make it shorter. It'll kind of reconstruct your sentences. So my wife has it. We use it all the time.
I should look at that then. Yeah, because that's always been a problem. It's like, okay, and you could see it, when I'm speaking to my daughter, especially like her eyes glaze over. It's like, yeah, that you can stop talking. I understand. I understand. And suddenly I'm twice my age in my head.
I totally get it. I understand. So Mini Chat had a IG summit last week for 2 days, and there was a few things about AI that I was really interested in. And of the top 5 or 10 tools for AI, Grammarly is one of them. So yeah, if you do write, and I don't even know the cost, but I would recommend checking it out at least.
Sure.
Probably do a free trial or something.
Yeah, I will. I will. Thank you. Because I'm writing all my own copy right now. It's
Fun, isn't it?
bootstrapping startup life, right? Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm
Yes.
writing like I'm getting graded by number of words I'm using instead of how brief I can be.
Yeah. Well, I think Grammarly will definitely help that then.
Right on. Thank you.
Well, Josh, this has been awesome. I'm glad we've talked about ways that we can work together already.
Cool.
So you won't be a stranger.
No, I won't. And please don't you be.
No, not at all. Like you want to talk about a release as part of the app? Let's do it.
Cool. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, I'm going to wave goodbye.
Next Thursday, I'm speaking with Jonathan Neff, co-founder, managing owner, and master brewer of Neff Brewing, located in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Jonathan is a nanotechnologist and research scientist turned fermentation expert, in part due to his diagnosis of celiac disease. If you have ever heard of it or know anyone with it, it's a very painful way of life if undiagnosed. But given that was back in 2012, not too many gluten-free brews existed then, so he turned to home brewing. Jonathan has a big brain for science at the micro level, but his calling was brewing beer from the start. His first beer brewing contest wins were from regular beer he couldn't even taste. How nano times a billion awesome is that? In 2017, Jonathan founded Oklahoma's first and only dedicated gluten-free brewery and pub, and they opened a year later. I was in Tulsa last fall for a few weeks and enjoyed every bit of eating fried chicken sandwiches and fried pickles with delicious pain-free beers. Jonathan is a very impressive and brilliant guy, And I'm super excited about his future expansion. Maybe making his way to Dallas soon. That's very exciting for me. And, his beers are gluten-free, yes, but they were brewed for the craft beer enthusiast, as each one is brewed for everyone.
Tune in next Thursday and have a great week. This week's episode was produced by Fedora J Productions.